We spend our whole lives being careful with money, saving it, watching it, making sure there's enough. But almost nobody stops to ask one quiet question. What happens to it the day we're gone? Because here is something most married couples in Britain have never been told. The day one of you dies, the bank can freeze everything. The savings, the current account, all of it, and leave the other unable to reach a single penny, even for the funeral. There is one simple thing that prevents it. It takes 10 minutes, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly what it is. Let me tell you about Jean. It was the Friday that broke her. Arthur had died on the Tuesday, 41 years married, and by Friday, the undertaker needed paying. She sat at the kitchen table with their bank card in her hand, a card she'd used 1,000 times, and it was worthless. The account was in Arthur's name. He'd always handled the money side, and the moment the bank was told he'd gone, they froze it. Everything, their savings, the account the pension went into, all of it locked, and Jean couldn't even bury her husband. It feels like cruelty. It isn't, not quite. When a bank is told a customer has died, it freezes their sole account by law to protect the money until it's clear who's entitled to it. No more withdrawals, direct debits stopped, the card dead. And here's what catches families out. It doesn't matter how long you were married. If the account had only his name on it, you are not on it. In the eyes of the bank, Jean was a stranger to Arthur's money. Married 41 years, and a stranger to the money. Remember that. It's the whole point. But here is the first thing nobody had told Jean, the thing that would have saved her that Friday. Even with the account frozen, a bank will pay for the funeral. You take the undertaker's invoice to the bank, and they pay the funeral director directly from the frozen account. Most will do it even for a large bill. They'll do the same for any inheritance tax that's due. So if you take one thing from the next 10 minutes, a frozen account still buries someone. Jean found that out 3 days too late, and those were 3 days she spent believing she'd have to borrow money to lay her husband to rest. Now, the big one. The thing that takes 10 minutes and changes everything. A joint account. When two names are on the account, the law treats it completely differently. The day one of you dies, the money doesn't freeze. It simply passes to the other. Automatically. No probate, no forms in triplicate. The survivor takes in a death certificate, the account goes into their name, and life, the paying for things part of life, carries on. If Jean and Arthur's account had had both their names on it, there would have been no frozen Friday, no borrowing, no stranger at her own kitchen table. Just access. On the worst week of her life. 10 minutes at the bank, that's the whole secret. Nobody tells couples this, and it costs them everything at the worst possible time. But say it's too late for a joint account. Say the money is already sitting in a sole name. There's still something most people don't know. You do not always need probate. Every big bank, Barclays, HSBC, Lloyds, NatWest, Santander, Nationwide, will release up to £50,000 without it. Just a death certificate and a simple form. It's called the small estates process, and it turns months of waiting into 2 or 3 weeks. Above that, yes, you'll need the grant of probate. But an enormous number of ordinary estates sit right under that line, and the families never ask, because nobody told them there was a line. 2 more that surprise people. If Arthur had premium bonds, they don't vanish. They stay in the monthly draw for a whole year after death, still able to win before they're cashed in. And national savings will release up to £5,000 with no probate at all. And this one matters more than it sounds. Money gets lost. Old accounts, a building society from decades ago, a pension nobody remembered. There is a free government-backed service, My Lost Account, that searches every bank and building society in the country for accounts in a person's name. It costs nothing, and families have found thousands they never knew existed. There is one trap, and you must hear it. Not every joint account is the safe kind. Most are held as joint tenants. That's the good one, where it passes straight to the survivor. But a few are set up as tenants in common, where the dead person's share goes through the will instead, and can freeze after all. If you share an account, ask the bank one question. Are we joint tenants? 30 seconds, and you'll know. And here's what makes me angry, quietly. None of this is secret. None of it is complicated. A 10-minute conversation about whose name is on an account would spare hundreds of thousands of widows and widowers the exact nightmare Jean lived, at the precise moment they can least bear it. Nobody sits couples down and says it, so I will. If you're married, or you share your life with someone, send them this now. Ask each other tonight, what's on our accounts? It may be the kindest thing you do for each other all year. So, the 10 minutes. 1. Check whose name is on every account. If the important ones are in a single name, go into the bank together and ask to make them joint tenants. 2. While you're there, ask what that bank releases without probate and write the number down. 3. Make a single list. Every account, every premium bond, every pension, and tell the person you trust where it is. Not the amounts, just where to look. Because the cruelest thing isn't the freezing. It's a grieving person hunting through drawers, not knowing what exists or where. Jean got there in the end. It took her months. Probate, letters, forms, phone calls made in a quiet house. Arthur's money came to her, all of it, as it always should have. And the first thing she did, when it was finally hers, was walk into the bank and put her daughter's name beside her own on every account. So she never has a Friday like mine, she said. That's all this is. Not about death, about the people left standing in a kitchen afterwards, and whether we've made it that little bit easier for them. 10 minutes. Whose name is on the account? Ask the question this week, while it's a conversation and not a crisis. Look after each other. Jean and Arthur are composites. Their story stands for thousands of real ones. Everything else is fact. For England and Wales, correct in 2026. Bank thresholds vary, so always check with your own bank. General information, not legal advice. Citizens' advice and the government's bereavement guidance can help for free.